After a broken marriage, she revived an old mountain house until the Lycan king knocked on her door. The wind swept through the trees, carrying a faint scent of pine and earth. The house, abandoned for years, sat like a silent sentinel at the edge of the forest. Its walls were cracked and the paint had peeled, but to Alara it looked alive with possibility. She carried only a small bag and a box of essentials, determined to start over. Her marriage had ended in bitterness. The words, the fights, the betrayals, they were all behind her now. This mountain house was her chance to heal, to find herself again, and to touch life that had once been hers and her grandmother's. The moment she opened the door, a musty scent filled her nose. Dust floated in the air, illuminated by the pale light streaming through the broken windows. She stepped inside carefully, her hand brushing against the worn banister. The wooden floor creaked beneath her feet. Every corner whispered secrets from the past, every shadow seemed to watch her. Alara set her bag down and sighed. "Well," she said softly, "this is home for now." She spent the morning cleaning and clearing. Each sweep of her broom was a small victory. As she worked, she noticed relics left behind: an old rocking chair, a cracked porcelain vase, and family portraits covered in dust. One painting caught her eye: her grandmother, young and proud, standing on the very same porch she now stood on. Something in the painting made her heart ache, a reminder of roots and strength she had almost forgotten. In the afternoon, Alara carried boxes of supplies to the small kitchen. The windows were grimy and the cupboards were empty, but she imagined the space filled with life again: warmth, laughter, and the smell of meals she would cook. For the first time in months, she felt a flicker of hope. As night fell, the house seemed to breathe around her. Shadows grew long and strange, and the wind rattled the windows. Alara lit a single candle on the wooden table. The flame danced, casting flickering shadows that seemed almost alive. She wrapped her arms around herself, feeling a chill that was more than the mountain cold. Then she heard it, a faint rustle outside. She froze. For a moment she thought it was the wind. But no, there was something moving in the darkness beyond the porch. She leaned closer to the window, squinting into the shadows. Two glowing eyes stared back at her from the forest. Amber, fierce, intelligent eyes that seemed to pierce through her very soul. Alara's breath caught. She wanted to run, to hide, but something deep inside her urged her to stay. The eyes blinked once, then vanished into the trees. Shaking, she closed the curtains and tried to focus on the candle. "It's just a wolf or just the wind," she whispered to herself. But even as she said it, she felt that she was being watched, that the mountain itself held secrets she did not yet understand. The next morning she stepped outside into the misty air. The forest around the house was alive with soft whispers, the rustle of leaves, the distant call of a bird, the sigh of the wind. As she explored the garden, she found overgrown flowers and weeds tangled together. She knelt, pulling weeds and planting seeds she had brought from the village below. It was quiet work, and it calmed her heart. By afternoon, she had cleared a small path up to the edge of the ridge. The view was breathtaking. She could see the forest stretch endlessly, mountains rolling like waves into the distance. The sky was a deep, shifting gray. For a moment she felt small and yet infinite, part of something larger than herself. That night she lit the fireplace. The crackle of the fire echoed through the empty house. She settled into the old rocking chair, wrapping a shawl around her shoulders. Her thoughts wandered to her marriage, how she had lost herself, how trust had been broken, how love had turned to pain. And yet here she was, surrounded by silence and shadow, and for the first time she felt a quiet strength returning. But the forest was not silent for long. A soft thud echoed on the porch. Alara's heart skipped. She rose, moving slowly toward the door. Her hand trembled as she gripped the handle. Outside, the storm had started. Rain fell in sheets, beating against the roof and windows. Lightning split the sky, illuminating the mountains in sharp white flashes. And then knock, knock, knock. Alara froze, her breath caught in her throat. Who could be here on this mountain at this hour? She opened the door, shielding her eyes from the rain. Standing there was a man unlike any she had ever seen. He was tall, broad-shouldered, and his silver-gray hair clung to his face in wet strands. But it was his eyes that struck her most, amber, glowing with a strange light, almost too bright for a human, too alive for a mere mortal. He wore a dark cloak soaked through, and his presence carried a wild, commanding power. "I am Kale," he said, his voice deep and steady, like the roll of distant thunder. "I have come for what belongs to my line and perhaps to you as well." Alara took a step back, her mind spinning. I don't understand," she stammered. Kale's gaze softened, but only slightly. "You will in time, but you cannot stay ignorant forever. The mountain has remembered you, and it remembers me." The rain fell harder and the wind howled through the trees. Alara felt a strange pull toward him, though her instincts screamed danger. He was powerful, commanding, and yet lonely in a way that mirrored her own heart. Something about the intensity of his eyes made her pulse quicken, though fear clenched her stomach like ice. "I don't belong to anyone," she said firmly, though her voice wavered. Kale tilted his head, a small, almost imperceptible smile touching his lips. "No one belongs entirely to another," he said. "But some of us are bound by more than choice, by history, by blood, by the mountain itself." Alara felt the wind shift, carrying a whisper of voices, faint and old like echoes of the past. She could sense it. The mountain was alive and something ancient stirred in its heart. "I need shelter from the storm," Kale said simply, stepping closer. Even soaked through, he radiated a power that was impossible to ignore. Alara hesitated. Every instinct screamed to slam the door and run, and yet she found herself holding it open just slightly. "You can come in," she said softly, surprising herself. Inside, the fire crackled, the candlelight flickering on the walls. Kale's eyes scanned the room, taking in the worn furniture and the traces of life Alara was slowly building. He nodded almost approvingly. "You have a strong heart," he said. "This place, it has been waiting for someone like you." Alara felt a chill run down her spine, not from the cold but from the weight of his gaze. Who was he, really? Why had he come? And why did she feel, inexplicably, that the answers would change her life forever? The storm raged outside, lightning casting fleeting shadows across the room. For a long moment, neither spoke. The fire crackled. The mountain whispered. And Alara realized that her life, which had been quiet and empty for so long, was about to be anything but. Outside, the wind carried the distant howl of wolves, echoing through the trees. Inside, Alara felt a stir of fear and fascination, the first real stirrings of something she could not yet name. The night was far from over. And with Kale's presence, she knew that nothing would ever be the same. As she moved to light another candle, Kale's voice, calm and commanding, reached her again. "Prepare yourself, Alara. The mountain remembers everything, and so do I." Her hands trembled slightly as she turned to face him. Her heart raced. She was alone in the mountains no longer, and the shadows of the past were waking, just as something ancient and powerful had returned to her doorstep. The storm outside was only the beginning. The storm had passed, leaving the mountain wrapped in mist. Alara woke early, the sunlight barely filtering through the thick clouds. The house felt different this morning. Kale was still inside, sitting silently by the fire, his amber eyes watching her as she moved. He had not eaten nor spoken, yet his presence filled every corner of the room. Alara felt a strange mixture of fear and fascination. Who was he really? Why had he come to her, to this house in the middle of nowhere? And why did she feel drawn to him despite her instincts screaming caution? "Good morning," she said softly, breaking the silence. Kale's gaze lifted, and for a moment she thought she saw something human in his expression, something lonely, vulnerable, and tired. "Morning," he replied, his voice low and steady. "You have courage, Alara. Most humans would have fled the moment they saw me." Alara clenched her hands. "I am not most humans." Her words were firmer than she expected. She did not know why she said them, only that the house, the mountain, and the stranger before her demanded honesty. Kale studied her carefully. "You are strong, yes. But there is more to you than strength. You are tied to this mountain, to its history, and to me, whether you understand it yet or not." Alara frowned. "I do not understand anything. Who are you? Why have you come?" Kale rose, towering over her, yet he moved with a careful grace. "I am Kale, the Lycan king, exiled from my people for many years. This mountain, this house, it was once part of my line. Your grandmother protected it long ago. She saved my people from hunters and dark magic. Now the past has caught up with us both." Alara blinked. "Lycan king?" Her voice wavered. She wanted to laugh at the absurdity, yet the power in his eyes and the way the air seemed to shift around him silenced any mocking words. "Yes," Kale said, not harshly but with authority. "I am cursed to this mountain. My people are cursed. And only one with your bloodline can help restore balance." Alara felt a cold shiver run down her spine. "And why me?" Kale's amber eyes softened, almost imperceptibly. "Because your grandmother chose to protect us. She left behind a line and you are the last of it. You have the strength to heal what was broken." The words were heavy, filled with meaning she did not yet understand. She felt the weight of generations, of history she had never learned, pressing down on her. And yet beneath it something stirred, a spark of curiosity, a flicker of connection she could not name. I do not know if I can do anything," she admitted, her voice small. "I am just one person. I cannot fix centuries of mistakes." Kale stepped closer. The air seemed to bend around him, charged with power and intensity. "Sometimes one person is all it takes. Sometimes the courage to face fear is enough." Alara's heart raced. She had spent so long running from fear, from love, from loss. And here was a man who seemed to understand her pain, yet challenged her in every way. She could not ignore the tension between them, a mix of danger, fascination, and something deeper she did not yet understand. For days, they lived together in tense silence. Alara worked on restoring the house, while Kale patrolled the forest, keeping watch for dangers she could not even name. At night, he taught her about the mountain, the clans, and the ancient magic that lingered in the trees. She listened, sometimes frightened, sometimes entranced. Their moments together were charged. A touch here, a glance there, each one heavy with unspoken questions and desire restrained by caution. Alara found herself thinking of him constantly, wondering about the man beneath the powerful Lycan king. And Kale, for his part, watched her with growing admiration and a deep, reluctant longing. One evening, as the sun dipped behind the mountains, painting the sky in deep shades of red and gold, Alara ventured into the forest with Kale. He moved silently, like a shadow, and she felt the forest itself respond to his presence. They reached a clearing where wildflowers grew, glowing faintly in the dim light. Kale turned to her. "This mountain has been waiting for you," he said. "For years I have searched for someone like you, someone brave, strong, and compassionate. Someone who could see beyond fear and understand the past, even if they have not lived it." Alara felt tears prick her eyes. "I do not know if I am that person," she whispered. "I only know I am trying to survive, to live again." Kale stepped closer, close enough that she could feel the heat of his body, the strength contained in every movement. "Survival is not enough," he said softly. "You deserve more. You deserve to feel alive again, and perhaps to love again." Alara's breath caught. The words were gentle, but they carried a weight she could not ignore. She looked at him, at the strength and vulnerability in his gaze, and felt something stir deep inside, a longing she had buried long ago. Their moment was shattered by a sudden rustling in the trees. Kale tensed immediately, his body shifting, his senses alert. A rival Lycan faction had come, drawn to the mountain and its power. Shadows moved among the trees, eyes glinting in the dim light. "Alara, stay behind me," Kale commanded, his voice firm, protective. She nodded, fear and adrenaline mixing in her chest. She had never felt so alive, so frightened, and so drawn to someone at the same time. She watched as Kale moved like a storm unleashed, his strength and agility unmatched. The rival Lycan circled, snarling, but he held his ground, guarding her with every fiber of his being. When the battle ended, Kale stood over the defeated Lycans, his breathing heavy. Alara rushed to him, her hands trembling as she saw a gash across his shoulder. Blood had soaked through his cloak, but his eyes met hers with calm intensity. You fought for me," she whispered, disbelief and gratitude mixing in her voice. Kale's amber eyes softened. "You are not just anyone," he said. "You are tied to this mountain, to its magic, to me. I would protect you with my life." Alara felt a surge of emotion she could not name. Fear, fascination, awe, and something deeper, something terrifying and beautiful all at once. She reached out, touching his shoulder lightly. The connection was electric, sending shivers down her spine. Kale's gaze met hers, holding it, intense and unwavering. "Alara," he said, his voice low, almost a whisper, "do you feel it too? The mountain, the bond between us." Her heart pounded. I think I do," she admitted. "But I am scared. I do not understand any of this." Kale nodded, understanding. "Fear is natural. It has always been part of our lives, but courage is what defines us. And you have more courage than anyone I have known." For a long moment they stood together in the clearing, the mist curling around them, the forest holding its breath. The bond between them was undeniable yet unspoken, a thread connecting their fates. That night, Alara could not sleep. She sat by the fire, thinking of the day's events. The mountain, the forest, Kale's presence, it all felt like a dream or perhaps a test. She did not know what was real anymore, only that her heart was awake in a way it had not been for years. Outside, the wind whispered through the trees, carrying with it distant howls that spoke of the Lycan world she had barely glimpsed. Alara understood that her life was changing, that she could not turn back. The house, the mountain, and the mysterious king before her demanded courage, trust, and perhaps something more, love, though she did not dare say it aloud. And then from the forest a shadow moved. Alara's heart leapt. Kale's eyes snapped toward the darkness, sharp and alert. The rival faction had not gone. They were regrouping, waiting, planning. "Alara," Kale said, his voice firm but calm, "tonight you must stay close. The mountain remembers everything, and there are those who would harm it and you." She nodded, gripping the edge of the table, feeling both fear and anticipation. She could not deny it. The pull she felt toward him, toward this strange, dangerous world, was growing stronger every moment. The night stretched on, heavy with tension, mystery, and unspoken longing. Alara realized that she was no longer alone, that the quiet life she had imagined on the mountain was impossible. Something ancient and powerful had returned to her life, and she was caught in its current, unable to resist. As she closed her eyes, she whispered into the darkness, "I do not know what comes next, but I am ready to face it." Outside, the forest stirred again, and Kale's amber eyes glowed faintly in the firelight. The mountain had remembered her. And it was only the beginning. The mountain was quiet at dawn, wrapped in a silver mist that softened the edges of the world. Alara stood on the porch of the old house, looking out at the forest below. The events of the past days had left her breathless and restless. Kale had been her protector, her teacher, and though she would not admit it aloud, her companion in a way she had never known before. He emerged from the forest, his silver-gray hair wet from the morning dew. His amber eyes met hers, warm and steady. He carried himself with the same quiet power that had both terrified and fascinated her since the first night he had knocked on her door. "Alara," he said softly, stepping closer. "Are you ready?" She swallowed, nodding. "I think I am. Whatever comes, I will face it, with you." Kale's lips curved into a small, approving smile. "Good. Today the mountain will be free of its shadows, but it will take courage and trust." They moved through the forest together, their steps silent on the damp earth. The air was thick with anticipation. Birds called faintly in the trees, and the wind whispered through the leaves, carrying with it the scent of earth and life renewed. Alara felt her heart pounding, not just from fear, but from something stronger, deeper, connection. They reached the clearing where the rival Lycan faction had attacked before. The ground was disturbed, the grass flattened and torn. Shadows moved at the edges of the forest. Kale's stance shifted, his muscles tense, every sense alert. "They are here," he said quietly. "And they will not leave easily." Alara felt a shiver of fear. But as she looked at Kale, standing tall and unyielding, she drew strength from him. She had come to this mountain to rebuild her life, to find peace. And now she realized she could not do it alone, but together they could face anything. The Lycans emerged, their eyes glinting with anger and challenge. Kale moved swiftly, his movements precise and powerful, a blur of strength and control. Alara watched, holding her breath, but she did not turn away. She remembered the artifacts her grandmother had left behind, charms, symbols, and herbs that carried protective magic. With Kale's guidance, she placed them around the clearing, creating a circle that glowed faintly in the morning light. The rival Lycans hesitated, sensing the magic in the circle. Kale's voice rang out, commanding and strong. "Leave now or face the mountain's judgment." There was a pause, a tense moment where time itself seemed to hold its breath. Then slowly the Lycans retreated, disappearing into the forest shadows. The danger had passed, at least for now. Alara exhaled, relief flooding her body. Kale turned to her, his amber eyes softening. "You did well," he said. "Your courage helped protect this place. You were part of this victory." She shook her head, smiling faintly. "I only followed your lead." "No," Kale said firmly. "You were more than that. You have a power within you, one you have only begun to understand. The mountain recognizes it. I recognize it." Alara felt her heart quicken. The bond between them, the unspoken connection, felt undeniable. For the first time, she did not feel alone. She felt alive, strong, and, strangely, hopeful in a way she had not felt for years. The sun broke through the clouds, casting golden light over the mountains and the house they had restored together. The mist curled around them like a living thing, and Alara realized that the mountain itself seemed to breathe, as if acknowledging the return of balance. Kale stepped closer, his gaze unwavering. "Alara," he said, his voice low, almost a whisper, "the mountain is free, but so much more is possible. If you are willing, we can restore the house, the land, and the bond that was broken centuries ago. Together." Alara looked into his eyes, seeing not just strength and power, but trust, respect, and a kind of quiet longing she had never known. She reached out, taking his hand. The touch sent warmth through her body, a connection that went beyond words. "I am willing," she said softly, her voice steady. "I want to help, to protect this place and to face what comes with you." Kale's lips curved into a rare, genuine smile. "Then we begin, not just as guardian and human, but as partners. Equal in courage, in heart, and in purpose." They returned to the house together, moving through the restored rooms with a sense of pride and wonder. Alara arranged furniture, dusted the shelves, and placed charms and herbs in every corner. Kale worked alongside her, repairing the roof, clearing debris, and tending to the garden. Their hands brushed often, and with each touch, the connection between them deepened. At night, they sat by the fire, sharing stories of the past. Kale spoke of the Lycans, their history, and the curse that had bound him to the mountain. Alara shared memories of her grandmother, her childhood, and the pain of her broken marriage. Each story built a bridge between them, creating understanding, respect, and the first sparks of love. One evening, as the moon rose high, casting silver light through the windows, Kale turned to her. "Alara," he said, his voice soft but commanding, "you have faced fear, danger, and uncertainty, and yet you stand here, stronger, braver, more alive than ever. I am grateful to have you by my side." Alara felt her heart swell. "I am grateful too," she said. I never thought I would find peace, or someone to trust, but I have with you." Kale reached out, gently brushing a strand of hair from her face. Their eyes met, amber and brown, two souls bound by courage, loss, and the magic of the mountain. For a moment the world fell away, leaving only the fire, the mist, and the undeniable connection between them. The mountain held its breath as they leaned closer, a silent promise passing between them. The bond that had begun in fear and mystery had grown into trust, respect, and the first stirrings of love. But even as they embraced this moment, the forest whispered once more. Shadows shifted at the edges, and the magic of the mountain pulsed with life. There were still mysteries to uncover, still dangers to face. Yet for the first time, Alara felt ready. With Kale by her side, she knew she could meet anything. Days passed, and the house became a sanctuary. Alara tended the garden, restored rooms, and filled the air with laughter and warmth. Kale patrolled the forest, keeping watch and teaching her the ways of the mountain. Their bond strengthened with every shared task, every quiet conversation, and every glance that lingered too long to be casual. Alara realized that the broken pieces of her life were being mended, not by solitude, but by connection, not by fear, but by courage, and not by fleeing the past, but by embracing it, learning from it, and standing strong in the present. One morning, standing on the porch as the sun painted the mountains in gold and pink, Kale took her hand in his. "Alara," he said, "we have restored this place and perhaps ourselves as well, but there is one final truth I must share." Her heart leapt. "What truth?" Kale looked into her eyes, amber meeting brown, his gaze steady and unwavering. "I am yours as you are mine. Not by force, not by obligation, but by choice. The bond between us, the magic of this mountain, the courage you have shown, it has made us partners, equals, and perhaps something more." Alara's breath caught. She felt tears prick at her eyes, not of sadness, but of overwhelming relief and joy. "I choose you too," she whispered. "Not because I am bound, but because I want to be. Because I trust you, and because I feel alive with you." Kale smiled, the first real, unguarded smile she had ever seen. He pulled her close, their hands clasped, their foreheads touching. The mountain seemed to sigh around them, a gentle, approving whisper in the wind. For the first time in years, Alara felt whole. The pain of her broken marriage, the loneliness, the fear, they all seemed distant now. The mountain, the house, and the Lycan king had given her a second chance, not just to survive, but to live. As the sun rose higher, spilling light across the valley, Alara and Kale stood together on the porch. The house behind them was no longer abandoned. The forest around them was alive, vibrant, and welcoming. And their hearts, once heavy with loss and fear, were now full of hope, courage, and a love that had been forged in shadows and trials. The mountain had remembered them, the past had been honored, and the future awaited. Together they would face it, all of it, with strength, trust, and a bond that could not be broken. Alara smiled, feeling the warmth of Kale's hand in hers. "We are ready," she said softly. Kale nodded, amber eyes glowing with pride and affection. "Yes," he said. "Together always." And as the mist curled around the mountain and the sunlight danced on the trees, Alara knew that the house, the mountain, and her heart were finally home.